Have you ever had pepper plants that look beautiful, green, and healthy, but they produce very few peppers? The leaves look green, the plant is growing strong, you're expecting peppers to form soon, but nothing happens. Sometimes the reason is a very common habit that some people do without realizing. Today, we're going to talk about one habit that pepper plants really dislike and how fixing it will help the plant to produce more peppers. Welcome and welcome back to another Gardening with Stacy. I thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all and God bless you all. One habit pepper plants really dislike is the soil being constantly wet. Some people may believe that peppers need water every day, especially when the weather is hot. But pepper plants actually prefer soil that stays moist than stay constantly soaked. One thing to keep in mind is that your pepper roots needs oxygen as well as water. So when the soil stays wet all the time, the air pockets in the soil will be filled with water, which reduces the amount of oxygen around the root. And without enough oxygen, the root struggles to function properly. When pepper plants receive too much water, several things can happen. The plant root becomes weaker, the plant starts to grow slower, flowers may drop, and also a reduction in pepper production, right? So the plant may still look green and healthy, but produces very few peppers. There are a few signs that your pepper plant may be getting too much water. The leaf starts to yellow, you're having drooping leaves even when the soil is wet. And as I mentioned earlier, the plant growth may slow down, the plant it becomes stunted and flowers starts to fall off. Sometimes when people see drooping leaves, they add more water, but the real problem may actually be too much water. Here's something interesting about pepper plants. Pepper plants sometimes produce more fruits when the soil dries slightly between watering. When a plant experiences mild stress, it may shift its energy towards reproduction. So, allowing the soil to dry a little between watering can actually encourage the plant to produce more peppers. A better way to water pepper plant is to actually water deeply and allow the top layer of the soil to dry out a little before watering again. Deep watering encourages stronger root growth. Stronger roots help plants absorb nutrients and tolerate heat better. Mulch also help maintain consistent soil moisture. Watering is important, but there are other factors that affect pepper production as well. One, sunlight. Peppers grow best with 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. 2, temperature. Peppers prefer warm weather, but extreme heat can still stress the plant. 3, fertilizer. Too much nitrogen in your soil will give you a lot of leaves, but little to no fruits. Healthy pepper plants usually need balance between water, sunlight, and nutrients. If you want your pepper plants to produce more fruits, a few simple things can help. Water deeply but not constantly. Allow the soil to dry slightly between watering. Provide good sunlight. Avoid excess nitrogen. These small adjustments can make a big difference in how many peppers your plants produce. So if your pepper plants look healthy and not producing a lot of fruits, the problem may not be pest or fertilizer. Sometimes people would tend to think that those are the issues. But sometimes it is simply a watering habit that the plant dislikes. By adjusting how often you water, you may just see the plant producing a lot more. So tell me, do you water your pepper plants every day or just when the soil starts to dry out a bit? I would love to hear what works best for you. Comment below and tell me. Sometimes pepper plants grow for a while before they begin producing fruit. Peppers often spend their early growth stages developing strong roots and leaves. So during this time, the plant is preparing to support its fruit later. So if your pepper plant looks healthy but hasn't produced fruit yet, it may simply be focusing on growth first. Once the plant becomes stronger, it usually begins flowering and producing peppers. Sometimes patience is actually part of the process when growing peppers. I can tell you that much. I must tell you this. Pepper plants behave a little differently depending on where they grow. Peppers growing in containers often need more frequent watering because containers dry out faster than garden beds. But peppers growing in ground usually retain the moisture longer. So if you water container peppers and in-ground peppers the same way, the container plants may dry out faster while the in-ground plants may stay wetter longer. So this is why checking the soil before watering is important. Or notice, be observant, observe your plants, your containers, your garden. Healthy roots are one of the most important factors for pepper production. Pepper plants prefer well-drained soil. Soil that stays compact or waterlogged can weaken the roots. When roots struggle, the plant may grow slowly or produce fewer peppers, like I mentioned earlier. So adding organic matter such as manure, compost, liquid fertilizer can improve soil structure and drainage. Healthy soil allows water to move through while holding enough moisture for the plant. Another thing that can affect pepper production is plant spacing. When pepper plants are too close together, they compete for sunlight, nutrients, and airflow. Crowded plants may produce fewer peppers because they are competing for resources. So proper spacing allows each plant to receive enough light and airflow, which supports healthy growth and fruit production. So you don't have to follow the seed package spacing, but you do not want to plant them too close together where they will not have proper airflow. Sometimes many people don't realize that harvesting peppers can actually encourage the plant to produce more fruits. When mature peppers are left on the plant too long, the plant may slow down new fruit production. So picking ripe peppers signals the plant to continue producing more. So this is why regular harvesting can lead to a larger overall harvest during your growing time or your growing season. One thing that can confuse people is seeing pepper flowers but not seeing peppers develop. Pepper flowers are actually the first step towards fruit production. So after pollination occurs, the flower begins to fade and the small peppers starts forming behind it. Sometimes people think the flower falling off means something is wrong, but if pollination happened, a small pepper usually begins growing where the flower was. However, if the flower drops without fruit forming, it may be due to stress such as excessive heat, inconsistent watering, or poor pollination. So seeing flowers is actually a good sign. It means the plant is getting ready to produce. Another thing that can be a little surprising is how long pepper takes to mature. So depending on the variety, the peppers can take maybe 60 to 90 days after transplanting to start producing mature fruits. This means sometimes the plant is healthy and growing properly, but it simply hasn't reached the stage where the fruit production begins. So again, patience can be an important part of growing peppers. Let's not forget that sometimes, yes, peppers may struggle to produce fruit because of pests. Certain insects feeds on leaves, stems, or flowers can weaken the plant. Common pepper pests would include aphids, whiteflies, and spider mites. So when plants are stressed by pests, they may focus on survival instead of producing fruit. So checking your plants regularly helps catch pests problem early. Not all pepper plants produce the same amount of fruit. You have to take note of that. So some varieties naturally produce many small peppers, while others produce fewer but larger peppers. For example, hot pepper varieties often produce many fruits. Large sweet peppers may produce fewer but bigger peppers. So understanding the variety you're growing can help set realistic expectations for your harvest. Sometimes you can lightly prune your pepper plants to improve airflow and encourage stronger growth as well. So, pepper flowers also need pollination to produce fruit. Peppers are self-pollinating plants, meaning each flower contains both male and female parts. However, movement from wind or insect can help distribute the pollen much faster. So if pollination does not occur, the flower may drop without producing a pepper. So like with tomatoes, you can gently shake the plant to help with the pollination. I hope this video was useful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, walk good. Come garden with me now, man.
And what a nice place to live. Sweet jam.